Hello everyone, in this video we're going to be talking about the Dark Elves, because there has been some changes in Tides of Torment. Nothing sweeping, so don't get overly excited, but there have been some changes to Morathi and a minor change to Lokhir. We're going to cover that, as you can see already. Enables recruitment of certain Slaanesh units because we do have access to more than the usual. You'll naturally need Tides of Torment to be able to benefit from this, but that does mean that you have access to new Slaanesh units with the Devotees and the Anointed Hero of Slaanesh. You don't have access to any other demons barring the demonettes, but that means from tier 2 all the way to tier 4 you've got access to a fair amount of Slaanesh themed units if you want to bring them into your armies. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, the Devotees aren't really great units. They are, decent at melee combat and so on, but you've got Shades, and Shades will get a lot more bonuses for your tech tree. The difference here is you're going to get something with the Mark of Slaanesh, and that's going to change up their playstyle a little bit. It's purely for theming here, but I'm expecting that if this has happened so far, maybe we'll be very lucky and get some even bigger changes when it comes down the line when the Dark Elves finally get a proper rework, because it definitely has to happen at some point, or at least I'm hoping so. Now, things do change if you get the Druchii Anointed. You see, the Druchii Anointed is an incredibly powerful hero. Not only does it give you a hero with a great weapon that's very good at taking out characters and units, but it's incredibly fast. You can have it mounted on a demonic steed even when playing as Morathi, and it does have specific skills to buff up your devotees, which means that now they'll be a bit more viable. Honestly, when it comes to this character, considering it's so good and it's so incredibly fast, this is the big reason why you'd want to play as Morathi now. You can tailor an army pretty well around it, and don't you worry, there is a way to boost some stuff faction-wise. We'll get to that in just a second, but really, the Druchii Anointed is what makes the army fall to Slaanesh, so to speak. As far as I've been able to see, there are no texts surrounding the units, which can be a bit of an issue, but when you play as Morathi, you've got some skills known as the Dark Dalliance. There's 2 skills there. One of them will just give you a flat bonus towards your specific army, whereas the second version, that's where things get a little bit better. Level 2 will give you enhanced corruption, plus 12% speed for your Slaaneshi units for all armies faction-wide, plus 6 melee attack for all armies faction-wide, and then finally a physical resistance bonus for all the Slaaneshi units, but that is going to be just in Lord's army. I'm not sure if there's other placeholder stuff that hasn't been introduced yet. Keep in mind that as I'm recording these videos, things are changing, because that's just the nature of early access. But it's not a bad skill overall, and it does make things a little bit better, especially if you're just going to have the one Slaaneshi army with Morathi so far. You can have others, but those units will be supplemented with other things, which in most cases, you're just going to be using demonettes. It'll take around 26 turns on average for you to be able to pick up the full buildings, or at least to get every single unit, which isn't too bad. It's important to remember that these units are fairly expensive though, so plan ahead, right? Obviously try get them with an army there. You already have some upkeep reductions, because demonettes aren't cheap. It's just the nature of them. They're very, very powerful units, and they're very fast. You can use them to a very high degree, but they're really not cheap at all. You can actually get the stuff a bit quicker than turn 26, but I'm taking into account building up other stuff and being able to get an infrastructure going and not wasting just the slaves on just the Slaanesh building. So let me talk to you about this before we jump onto Lokhir very quickly. It's a small update, and that's kind of expected. End of the day, it's just adding in units. I do think that this is kind of leaving the door ajar open for a potential Dark Elf update, because what we have to keep in mind is that with Tides of Torment, Creative Assembly have been doing faction-specific, not race-specific, but faction-specific technologies within tech trees. And really, we're getting closer and closer to a potential, still kind of in the air there, but actual cult of Slaanesh. I think there's possibilities there. It would be cool if we just got a few marked marauders and stuff just to flesh out the faction a little bit more. Because sure, they're not the best units, but it kind of adds to it, and the Mark of Slaanesh is pretty damn good. If they could do that, a few techs here and there, maybe even just allow Morathi to get some spells in the lore of Slaanesh, I honestly think it could be a unique enough experience. If you look at Norsca now being able to get some God-touch troops, it's not a lot, but it's still something that just adds a little bit of flavor. And I think that's what we need a little bit with Morathi. But I think something like that is going to happen down the line with a big Dark Elf update. I'm imagining no Dark Elf DLC in the future, unless drastically changes, but I don't know. It's going to be one of those things that we'll have to wait and see, but they really don't have any units left. The thing is, the only way I see the Dark Elves getting really complete is a big rework in the same vein as Kislev, but I'm fairly sure that Creative Assembly have actually outright stated that they're not going to do something that big anymore, and I think they've said that publicly. I'm not 100% too sure. I've seen people comment that on videos before, so it's like, oh, maybe they did and I just wasn't paying attention. The thing is, and I know this sounds really stupid, but the Dark Elves are falling behind, right? The High Elves have just gotten a big rework. The Lizardmen got a nice update. It wasn't like a massive one, but it was enough to make them more enjoyable. But the Dark Elves have kind of really fallen behind. Their tech tree is awful. I think at some point, hopefully soon, we should be able to get some sort of Dark Elf updates just to keep things moving along. I don't like to talk about this stuff during an early access period, but having some time now with Morathi has made me think of that, and I think it's really important to talk about it. I imagine that Creative Assembly have some plans, but we need to start reminding them, like, yeah, the Dark Elves have been kind of screwed over for a while. I know a lot of people didn't like the Slave update. I thought it was alright. But I've seen a lot of buzz about what people were expecting for Morathi during this patch, because obviously Slaanesh, Morathi, and so on. And not gonna lie, I had some expectations too. It just wasn't that, right? And it's fine, because at the end of the day, it's not a Dark Elf DLC and it's not a Dark Elf update. This is a bit of a benefit, and to be honest, it's not that bad. And now we have Lokhir, who, doesn't really have much. So basically, he's going to get a teleport. And it has its uses, I'm not going to lie. It just feels kind of odd because Lokhir featured so prominently on the trailer. Yes, I know it's because of the End Times Law and Aisling fighting against Lokhir and so on. But if you're putting someone on a trailer, you'd expect, I don't know, something, right? So it's just a side mechanic which you can lose, which is how I ended up like ignoring that thing for Nikari. That it just teleports you to a Black Ark. So Lokhir can teleport to any Black Ark, meaning that if you're sending Black Ops to other locations, you can have him go there with a full stack within a turn. I think that works out quite well if you're trying to land an invasion force. I'm a little disappointed that he doesn't have something updated to give him a Black Ark properly, right? Like, he has a unique Black Ark with the one that starts off in the campaign, but I feel like he should have been a Horde faction. I feel like that really would have done a lot for him. Either way, the teleport is useful, so I'm not going to like dig on that because at the end of the day, it has its uses. So that's it for the Dark Elves. There's not really a lot to talk about. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Start a bit of a discussion. There's a lot of videos coming. I do apologize, I'm a little rambly here, but I like the Dark Elves and I hope that we can just see them kind of finished off. See you guys. Have a good one.